She called the film outdated. She said that the movie was basically about a prince stalking Snow White.
There has definitely been tension between Snow White leading ladies Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler.
Disney's highly anticipated live-action remake of Snow White has become a massive catastrophe, with critics, fans, and even the studio itself reeling from what is now being called one of the biggest disasters in recent Hollywood history, projected to lose a staggering $115 million. The film's financial woes are just the tip of the iceberg. The scandal surrounding Snow White has sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry, with high-profile figures like Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot now in the crosshairs of the fallout. Disney's once unbeatable formula of reimagining animated classics has hit a major speed bump, and now the studio is scrambling to salvage what's left of its reputation and its investment. When Snow White was first announced, it seemed like the perfect idea. A live-action remake of Disney's first-ever animated feature film starring a fresh-faced up-and-coming star in the form of Rachel Zegler, but what was meant to be a heartwarming and exciting reinvention of a beloved classic quickly spiraled into a public relations nightmare. A financial disaster and a case study in how not to remake a timeless tale from the beginning. This film was marred by controversy. Zegler's casting was seen by many as an attempt to modernize the character of Snow White, but it quickly raised eyebrows. Zegler, a relatively unknown actress with little experience in big-budget films, was thrust into the limelight. However, her comments about the original 1937 film, calling it outdated and problematic, sparked a firestorm of criticism. Fans of the original Snow White were livid, feeling that the classic animation deserved respect. Her comments about how Disney's 1937 portrayal of Snow White was far too simplistic and didn't speak to modern sensibilities seemed to imply that the studio was ready to move on from the film's legacy altogether. This wasn't just a small comment that went unnoticed. Zegler had already developed a reputation for her outspoken political views, including pro-Palestine statements that garnered attention both in the media and from fans. For some, it felt like Zegler was using her platform in the film to push her personal beliefs rather than embracing the timeless appeal of Snow White, and when she further criticized the character of Snow White as submissive and too dependent on a prince, it became evident that this was not going to be a simple retelling of a fairy tale. It was something much bigger and much more divisive. The fallout from the casting choices, Zegler versus Gadot, but the issues didn't stop with Zegler's controversial remarks. The dynamics between Zegler and her co-star Gal Gadot, who played the evil queen, were reportedly tense from the beginning. Gadot, the Israeli actress known for her role as Wonder Woman, is no stranger to public scrutiny, but she's generally been seen as a consummate professional. However, sources from the set of Snow White revealed that Gadot found it difficult to work with Zegler, especially after her inflammatory statements. Rumors circulated that the two actresses had little to no chemistry on set, and their strained relationship seemed to reflect poorly in the film. Their lack of on-screen connection led to criticism of the film's key performances, but why did this matter so much? The role of Snow White is iconic, and the relationship between Snow White and the evil queen is central to the story. Without a strong, compelling dynamic between the two actresses, the film's emotional core was lost. Audiences didn't feel the tension or the stakes. Instead, it felt like two talented actresses who didn't quite mesh together. This lack of chemistry between the lead characters led to a series of questions from critics about the effectiveness of the casting choices, with many questioning whether the film could ever have succeeded under such fractured circumstances. As we know, Snow White had a colossal budget, estimated to be around $270 million for production alone, when you factor in an additional $140 million for marketing and promotion. Disney's total investment in this film exceeded a mind-blowing $410 million. With that much money on the line, expectations for the film were sky-high. Disney, already writing the success of other live-action remakes like The Jungle Book and The Lion King, hoped to strike gold again, but what they didn't anticipate was that Snow White would crash and burn so spectacularly. The film was released with high hopes, only to gross a meager $143.1 million in its first few weeks for a production that cost over $400 million. This is nothing short of a disaster. Analysts and industry experts quickly realized that the film would not come anywhere close to breaking even, and Disney's executives were left scrambling to figure out what went wrong and how to salvage their investment. As the financial losses continue to mount, rumors have begun swirling that Disney is considering legal action against Rachel Zegler, while the actress has been an outspoken advocate for progressive causes. Her remarks about the film and her behavior on set have led some insiders to believe that she may be partially responsible for the film's failure. Disney executives who are under immense pressure to salvage the brand's reputation may look to sue Sklar for her role in the debacle as the studio attempts to assign blame for the film's catastrophic performance. But it's not just Sklar in trouble. Gal Gadot too could be facing career fallout from the film's disastrous reception despite her solid track record in Hollywood. Snow White has been a major embarrassment for her, and many insiders are wondering whether this will affect her future projects. Could Disney distance itself from GDAU just as it seems to be distancing itself from Snow White, or will the studio continue to rally behind the star, hoping to recover from the damage done by the film's failure? One of the most ironic twists in this entire saga came when it was revealed that the environmental impact of Snow White's production was far worse than anyone expected despite the film's theme of nature and harmony with the environment. An analysis showed that Snow White generated more carbon emissions during its production in the UK than the latest Fast and Furious film. This revelation sparked outrage among environmental groups who were quick to point out the hypocrisy of a film pushing eco-friendly messages while simultaneously causing significant harm to the planet. Once again, Disney found itself at the center of a scandal it didn't see coming. The failure of Snow White has significant ramifications for Disney's future in the live-action remake game. The studio has made billions off of its reimagined classics, but with Snow White's colossal flop, questions are now being raised about the future of these high-risk, high-budget projects. Critics argue that Disney's formula for reimagining animated classics is running out of steam, and audiences may have finally grown tired of seeing their favorite films twisted into something completely different. Perhaps it's time for Disney to rethink its strategy. There are calls for the studio to return to its roots and focus on creating original film, but instead it became an example of how to mishandle a cherished narrative. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Disney will continue with its live-action remake strategy, or is the Snow White disaster a sign that the studio needs to shift gears? Make sure to subscribe to Celebrity Emotions for all the latest on this explosive story and more Hollywood scandals. What's next in this drama? Stay tuned because the plot is far from